ahead.
Well, are you good with the volume?
Just talk a little bit louder.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Well, Miss Neoma Johnson owned the building and the property. Well, she owned the property. And I guess the state put the building up. It had to be years ago.
It's going. It's going.
But Miss Neoma Johnson, right where Frank Sanders had his house, right that red brick right next to Liz.
That Frank Sanders is the red brick.
Yeah. That belonged to Miss Neoma Johnson. She had it built. And she used to live in a little bitty house, and she had that big house built. And then she passed, and Frank Sanders bought that house. But Miss Neoma Johnson lived in that house. She had it built. She lived right on that same property in another little house as she taught school. Right, the house was right here. She taught school here. She had to walk right over.
There's a White House on the corner.
That belongs to Miss Liz Jane Brightwell.
Right.
It belongs to Harry Brightwell now. She's passed.
Was it Miss Moody that lived
Miss
there?
Moody, Ollie Moody, yes.
Okay, but that's back in the 60s.
Back in the 60s, yes.
Okay, so Ollie Moody was a black lady and lived there on the corner.
Yes.
Miss Johnson taught at the school, and she owned the property that the school was on.
Yes.
And that's on, is it 4th Street?
It's 4th Street.
Okay, you've already been over that then, 4th Street. Okay. Do you know, I asked you this before, and it's curious, and I don't know that you know, but do you know why the school is there?
No, I do not. I just know school was there. So I don't know why.
Do you know anything about the history of those types of schools? There was when we talked once before.
Yes, I do.
What's the name of those schools? The Rosenthal Schools in Kentucky. This is a booklet you've got from the Kentucky Heritage Council.
Yes.
This is dated from 1917 to 1932.
Yeah. And it shows schools that were built like the one here. And this goes through Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and Kentucky. And also it goes through showing schools that were built for one teacher, like the one here. Larger school for 2 teachers. Larger school for 3 teachers. And if you look in there, it goes all the way up to a school built big enough for 12 teachers. But they all were for African American students' education during that period. And it's in that book.
And you're pretty confident that this is one of those schools?
I'm 100%.
Okay. Do you know where Miss Johnson grew up?
She grew up here in Warsaw.
What was her first name? Naomi?
Naomi Johnson, yes.
Do you know what her maiden name was? That's not fair. I don't know any of the maiden names of my teachers. So.
I should know her.
Okay. Well, if you think of it.
Okay, but I don't know, but I can find that out.
Okay, and she was married
to a man named Charles Johnson from Frankfort, Kentucky, and they separated.
But she had a child?
Named Ann Carolyn Johnson.
Did she go to that school?
Yes, she did.
How is she, compared to you? Is she older, younger?
She was older. Do you remember Paul Smith? Miss Lula Mae Smith.
I remember Lula Mae.
Miss Lula Mae Smith.
James Albert Smith?
They were cousins.
Okay.
Well, Paul Smith was the same age as her daughter, Ann Carolyn Johnson. She's passed away now, too.
Okay.
And she went to school here, too.
Did Miss Johnson cut her daughter any slack?
No. Miss Johnson treated everybody the same.
So how was that treatment in the classroom?
The treatment in the classroom, when you went in the classroom, there was no giggling, no playing around. You were studying. There was no playing with your buddy or nothing. And as I told Beth, there was discipline instilled. She would, you do something crazy like break a pencil or not do your lessons, she would whip you sometimes with a razor strap. And she'd have a razor strap that she had taken and had slit like this.
Did that ever happen to you?
Yes.
More than once?
Once.
Did it need to be happen?
No. It didn't happen again because you knew, and most of the people that got it once, she didn't have to do it again. She didn't hurt you but she let you know what you were doing was wrong, and it's not to be done again. And as you know, Beth knows, these things can't happen today in schools. But I think it helped us. I was telling Beth, I think that it instilled in us things you don't do when you're in public, things you don't do when you're in school. And Miss Johnson was very heavy on morals and how you carried yourself when you was outside of school. Because she always spoke about people are watching you. I don't know if it meant because you were African American or black, but she always, I remember saying, no matter where you go, someone's watching you. And so you must act right. And that's the way she taught.
Did she go to church here too?
Yes. We used to laugh because she went to church, the same church up here in the second row from the front, in the middle. And as a child, if you were in the back, horsing around, Monday morning she knew about it. And we teased about her having eyes in the back of her head. And you'd pay for it. She'd know every one of us that were doing it. And I was guilty. But she knew. And you knew when you went to church, you said you did what you're supposed to do. Because she was, I don't know who told her, but that was one of our little things we would joke about. She had eyes in the back of her head because you go in there Monday morning and she'd tell you about yourself, what you did, when you did it. She'd never turn around, not in that church.
What grades did you go to the school?
I went from the first to the 8th.
Okay, and when you left the 8th grade, where did you go?
I went to Gallatin County High.
Okay. Now that was in what year?
1963, 64. I started in 64 up there.
Okay. Now not all of the African American students that wanted to go on to high school up to that point had gone.
No.
Now, there had been some.
Had been some.
But where did the majority of them go for high school?
Lincoln Ridge Institute in Shelbyville, Kentucky.
Okay. Now you did not go there.
No.
Did your brothers go?
I had two brothers, Claude Green and James Green, that went there. And I had a sister, Mary Lou Green, that went there, but she didn't graduate. She didn't stay.
Okay, the other two did graduate?
Yes, they did. They all passed now, but Ed Brown went there.
So he'd gone to Miss Johnson's school?
Yeah.
And then he went on to Lincoln Institute?
Yes, he did. Melvin Smith down here went for a few years down there at Lincoln Ridge, and he went to finished up here.
Okay, so he graduated from Gallatin County
Yeah, he
High
did.
School?
But he went down there for a year or two.
Now, is he the Melvin that lives across from the library?
Yes, right.
He worked in Frankfurt and
Yes,
retired?
From the state, yes.
So did he get a college degree?
Yes, he did. I think at Kentucky State.
Okay.
That's where Miss Neoma Johnson got her college degree, Kentucky State. Because we remember, my brother and I was speaking of it this weekend, Miss Neoma Johnson, when we got out of school for the summer, all summer long she was going to school. She'd go back to Eastern State and go to school. I don't know how the system worked then or whether she had to keep herself upgraded or not, but she went to school during the summer while we were out of school, all summer long.
When you made the transition to high school here, did you feel like you were ready? I mean, was there any difference between you as a student and the other freshman students?
No, I didn't feel no threat. I felt like I was ready. I felt like she had gotten me ready.
I'm talking academically, you were ready.
Yeah, academically I was ready, yes.
Nothing wrong with the way she taught,
No.
was it? Actually, when did her school close?
We were the last class there.
And when you were in the 8th grade?
Yeah. Last class there, but we wasn't the first kids to go to Gallatin County High for high school. But we were the last class that was where they closed it.
And that was in 63 and 64?
Yes.
Okay. So
Now,
her school was closed.
Yeah, they closed that, and she went to teach at the Gallatin County Elementary School in the 5th grade. I believe it was the 5th grade, yeah.
She taught there for several years.
Several years before she passed, yes.
I think I told you. I
Yes.
was in the 4th grade, and probably would have been in her class, but she passed away before I could get to the 5th grade.
Because you said your brother
My brother had her.
had her, yeah.
And he graduated in 75, so he would have been in her class in about 68 or 69.
Right. Now my thing